Hey everyone, today I'll be talking about diagnosing different types of arrhythmia in ECG. For that, we need to look at the heart rate. As we all know that the normal heart rate is between 60 to 100, so there will be two conditions. One, if the heart rate is more than 100, and two, if the heart rate is less than 60. Now, if the heart rate is more than 100, then we need to follow a pattern. First, we will look at the QRS complex. The normal width of QRS complex is 2 to 3 mm. So if there is a wide QRS complex, then such kind of arrhythmias are ventricular in origin, and we have three arrhythmias which are ventricular in origin. First is ventricular tachycardia, second is ventricular flutter, and third is ventricular fibrillation. If I talk about ventricular tachycardia, herein the heart rate would be between 100 to 250. And further, ventricular tachycardia are of two types. One, they can have a monomorphic pattern, and two, they can have a polymorphic pattern. In monomorphic patterns, you will see that the waves are same. In polymorphic type, you will see this special appearance which is known as torsades de pointes. Next, if I talk about ventricular flutter, herein the heart rate would be more than 250. Ventricular fibrillation is difficult to diagnose as there is no definite pattern. Next, what I'll be talking about are the conditions where the width of QRS complex is normal. Such type of arrhythmias are supraventricular in origin. Here we will be focusing on the P wave. If the P wave is absent, then we can have two conditions. One is atrial fibrillation and one is PSVT, which is paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia. Herein, you need to focus on the heart rate. If the heart rate is irregular, then it is PSVT, and if the heart rate is regular, then it is atrial fibrillation. Now, if the P wave is present, then we will have two patterns. One, look at this first pattern. Here, each P wave is followed by a QRS complex. And in second pattern, you can see that each P wave is not followed by a QRS complex. Now, a condition where there is no QRS complex after a P wave, then that would be atrial flutter. If each P wave is followed by a QRS complex, then we need to look at the morphology of P wave. We all know that a normal P wave measures less than 2.5 mm both in height and width. So if the morphology of P wave is normal, then the patient is having sinus tachycardia, and if the morphology of P wave is abnormal, then the patient is having atrial tachycardia. Next, what I will be talking about are the arrhythmias wherein the heart rate is less than 60. The pattern remains the same. We will be focusing on the QRS complex. If the patient is having a wide QRS complex, then the patient is suffering from a third degree heart block. If the patient is having a normal QRS complex, then we look at the P wave. If the P wave is absent, then the patient is suffering from sinus arrest. And if the P wave is present, then again we will have two conditions. One wherein each P wave is followed by a QRS complex, and two where each P wave is not followed by a QRS complex. In such cases, patient is suffering from a second degree heart block, and second degree heart block are further of two types, Mobitz type 1 and Mobitz type 2. In Mobitz type 1, the PR interval is variable, while in Mobitz type 2, the PR interval is fixed. Now let us talk about the condition wherein each P wave was followed by a QRS complex. In such cases, we will look at the PR interval, and we all know that the normal PR interval ranges from 0.12 to 0.20 seconds. If the PR interval is normal, then the patient is suffering from sinus bradycardia, and if the PR interval is prolonged, then the patient is suffering from a first degree heart block. So this was all about arrhythmias in brief. If you like this video, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and also share this video. Thank you.